In November 2018, a 26-year-old American named John Allen Chau paddled a small rowboat through the Bay of Bengal. He was heading straight for an island where trespassing is illegal, carrying a Bible and a determination to make contact with the people living there. Chau never returned. He was killed by arrows as soon as he arrived, and fishermen later saw his body being buried on the beach. He had landed on North Sentinel Island, a place mapped by satellites but completely isolated from the modern world. The Sentinelese are not alone. Right now, there are over 100 uncontacted tribes living entirely off the grid, mostly hidden deep within the Amazon rainforest and the Andaman Islands. When stories like Chau's make the news, public reaction follows a predictable pattern. People view these tribes as primitive, assuming they fire arrows at outsiders because they are ignorant of modern progress or naturally violent. Treating strangers with lethal force is actually a carefully learned survival strategy. For an uncontacted tribe, a visitor is a literal existential threat. To understand why, we have to look at biology. Isolated populations have what scientists call immunological naivety. Because they have been separated from the rest of humanity for thousands of years, their immune systems have zero defense against the pathogens we carry every day. A simple common cold can wipe out an entire community. This diagram illustrates the lethal impact of these pathogens. When European settlers arrived in the Americas in the 1500s, 90% of the Native American population died rapidly. Imported foreign diseases caused this massive die-off, not weaponry. The Sentinelese likely experienced a similar biological shock. In 1880, a British naval officer named Maurice Vidal Portman led an armed expedition directly onto their island. Portman's men captured an elderly Sentinelese couple and several children, forcibly relocating them to a colonial facility. Within days, the elders became overwhelmed by common illnesses and died. The British then sent the terrified, infected children back to the island. Carrying a foreign sickness back to an immunologically naive population would have ignited a devastating outbreak. That single event forged a specific historical memory. Outsiders bring death. This data visualization tracks the neighboring Great Andamanese tribe to show how dangerous contact is. Before the British arrived, they numbered around 8,000. After forced integration, disease and displacement caused their population to plummet. It dropped to just 19 individuals. The few descendants who survived were entirely assimilated. Their original language, their history, and their traditional way of life were completely erased. When you measure the extinction of their neighbors against the trauma of their own stolen children, the Sentinelese border policy makes perfect sense. A barrage of arrows is a highly logical quarantine measure. Deep within the Amazon, extreme isolation preserves incredibly advanced, specialized human knowledge. Take the Awa tribe. When linguists study isolated groups, they find vocabularies tuned perfectly to the surrounding ecosystem. The Awa have hyper-specific terms for different parts of the forest at different times of day, or varying weather conditions. When a tribe disappears, linguists call it language death, the total loss of a highly specialized way of decoding nature that has no translation in English. Or consider the Matisse tribe on the border of Peru and Brazil. For generations, they have used a secretion from a specific tree frog, known as combo, in their spiritual and hunting rituals. Modern Western medicine is only now beginning to analyze these complex chemical compounds in labs, hoping to replicate their antibiotic and pain-killing properties. We saw this environmental mastery in action during the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. While modern warning systems failed and hundreds of thousands of people perished, the Sentinelese survived completely unharmed. They read the shifting ocean currents and animal behavior, moving to high ground before the wave ever hit. Forcing contact upon these tribes destroys a library of human intelligence that took tens of thousands of years to build. Which brings us back to John Allen Chau. To the Sentinelese, a man walking up their beach was a biological threat, carrying the exact same risk as the British soldiers who kidnapped their elders a century earlier. We know they are physically capable of peaceful interaction. In 1991, an Indian anthropologist named T.N. Pandit led an expedition to North Sentinel Island. The tribe waded into the water, accepted gifts of coconuts, and for one brief afternoon, they didn't fire a single arrow. Then they retreat it back into the trees. That moment proves they are fully aware the outside world exists. They see the passing cargo ships and helicopters, and they consciously choose to keep their borders closed. Today, governments are finally listening to that choice. In Brazil, agencies like FUNAI are structured specifically to act as a shield, enforcing legal cordons to protect indigenous territories from illegal loggers and outsiders. The United Nations now explicitly recognizes this boundary. Under international declarations, indigenous peoples possess the absolute right to refuse contact and defend their sovereignty. We often assume that global connection is always a positive goal. But the most advanced sign of respect we can offer these cultures is to honor their borders, turn our boats around, and leave them completely alone.